Well, since it's Sunday morning, I've got up early. Well, I mean, to be say up early, I've already been up. I know some of you guys are going, well, it's not that early. Just look at the clock. No, I was up earlier. But I'm going to be putting the server together today. So I thought I'd do a live chat if anybody wants to chat about. That's our little processor. Put that over there for a minute. Surprised how big the fan system is. Look at the size of the heatsink on this. Absolutely massive. Let me get it out of the box. Look at that. Looking forward to getting the server up and running because I am hitting limitations on what I can do with the systems I've got, and I don't really want to keep giving free stuff away to other AIs out there which are doing the old information collection and learning off what we're doing. So did I get the instructions out there? I don't know. Let's see what's in this box. Great, lots of nuts, bolts, screws. What I'm looking for is the thermal paste. There it is. One of the things I've seen, somebody had their computer in for repair recently because it's overheating, and it was basically you put thermal paste between your motherboard and the processor. Was it? No, it's not. It's between the processor and the fan system. Weird. I haven't seen how this goes together. I just bought it off the internet, so we're sort of going blind a little bit. Lots of bits and pieces. Let's try these on the floor for now. I got a Chinese manual. Yeah, so it's got support mechanisms for the motherboard first. All completely in Chinese, I think. Oh, it's alright, cylinders on the back. So what we got here? Not really bothered about the fan wiring yet. Because this is what I was saying. Don't put it together in the computer. Put it together first on the desk, because it's bulky and it's a pain. And here's the motherboard. This anti-static bag. Just checking there's nothing at the bottom of the box. Okay. Yeah, always strip it out because it's, yeah, the package for that. Perfect. So what we've got here, we've got some small screws, some stickers, antennas for the Wi-Fi, another small locking screw, a cable, and another teeny tiny manual. So let's see. It's a nice looking board as well. So it's got some brackets already on here for the chips. Interesting, it's got a cover over it. Plastic cover on it. It's going to be quite a beast once it's put together. So there's not much instructions. It's more regulations, European regulations. Look at that. Yeah, I'm going to read that. Of course I am. Oh, quick installation guide. Thank you. I'll scan it on my phone. Yeah, so we've got the chip piece here. Gotta get this bit together. These are the hard bits. Once this is together, the graphics card isn't so hard to install. The memory just drops straight in. The hard bit is the motherboard, the processor, and the fan system. But we should get that done quite quickly this morning. Anyway, I'll park that for 5 minutes. We can have a chat. Let's have a chat. So why am I doing all the AI stuff? Well, to be perfectly honest, one of the things the AI is doing out there as a general thing is trying to learn from you. It's trying to work out your patterns, etc. Because what you got to understand is a lot of the stuff out there is not logical in the sense of it's from straight A to B. People often do things where they can't recognize it as a mathematical pattern into information. So for example, I've got friends that could tell you how many tiles are on a roof by looking at it, but they couldn't actually tell you how many tiles are on a roof mathematically. But they could look up and tell you exactly what you need for that roof. Bald-headed, yes. What's that? Yes, I'm bald-headed, thank you. That's it, it's from Matias Maximiliano Martinez Reyes. Yeah, so the point being is, where was I? Yeah, so the AI stuff is relying on being fed information, can correct things as it goes and understand things better, because not everything is easy to understand. Also, it's the logic of how you get from A to B, because they may have a long-winded thing to do to get to the same result. Now, the easiest way of describing this is when you do construction, you'll go to college and they'll go like, right, you put a piece of wood like this, then you plane it, and you're turning it, and you're manually plane it, and you spend ages getting a piece of wood level. That's not how you work on a construction site. You'll be fired. You learn on the construction site how to do things quickly, how to get to the end result as fast as possible. So sometimes I remember years ago, there was a load of metal frames for windows, and they were too big. Basically, oh sorry, no, they were too small. They were too small for the window openings. These were for port cabins. So what they do is they cut the corners, because it's a metal insert, so it's a frame. They cut the corners, then they smack it with a hammer so it bends up, bends out, bends out, and they change the shape of it from being square to is twisted slightly, because that twist meant it actually fitted. Why would you do that? Because they bought the windows cheap. So it was cheaper to bend the metal and twist it a little bit and alter it than actually buying the right windows. So they bought these by the thousands because of the wrong size, but you make it fit. It's the same as sometimes you'll see things like in kids' toys, and you'll think, well, hang on, that I've seen that somewhere else. And it's where they see other component parts. I mean, this is one my son's made. This is an example. So he's made this little mini bullet with our 3D printer. But you'll get people look at it and think, oh, I need, let's say, example, I've got something that slides along, and you want to pin it so that it doesn't keep moving. So there's a hole. So you need to make the hole that big. So you can drop it in, it becomes a pin. Those things aren't straightforward logic. These are things where they go, but it was designed for, and then obviously the design was originally, well, it's a 3D print of a bullet, but now it's a pin, but it could be something else as well. That's how that works. This is the scissor cutters going past. It's been the same recording for over 10 years. They drive past and it's basically they do sharpening scissors, knives, whatever. I think they sell rugs as well. But they've been doing it for a long time and they just drive past. But yeah, so the point is, these are the sort of gaps that humans can fill that the AI may struggle with. Because it's not a straight logical change. It's going from A to B or A to F, because it's a completely different thing where you can think, okay, I've got 50 other things to do, and what else could I use this for? Because we can produce these cheaply without having to do a redesign. So you may look at it and go, oh, well, we've started reproducing record players. Maybe we can make this the pivot point in the middle of the record, where the record sits over the top, and that could go in the record player because we're already producing this. We don't need another machine to produce something similar. It all becomes logical thoughts. Now, the reason I chose manufacturing, because it's easier to find why you would do that. But when you start looking into construction, there's a lot of stuff in construction that is logic based to the individual and the understanding of dynamics such as location. It could be tied in with local requirements as well as national. It could be tied in with ECG. It could be tied in with community groups. There's lots of variables that are coming in from all different sides. So when you start putting things together and you're assessing all these things, some of this stuff the AI won't be aware of yet, because they'll see you built something but don't know why you came to that conclusion. These layers that get you there is the bits they need. So anyway, point being is, this is why I'm working on the AI as a separate system, because that system will have its own large hard drive systems, but also this is node 0. So there will be other nodes on there. Like, for example, I'm looking at a cluster system where it may end up with about 5 systems, 5 servers once it's done for different things. So, for example, you see a lot of old rack mount servers with loads of hard drive space. So you can harvest the information from there to the other one. The other interesting bit that a lot of people may not be aware of, the limitations why a lot of these AIs aren't getting any faster, is because of the cables. And if you're interested in stocks and shares, I would look into the fiber optic cables that are now coming in for data centers, because that's the next generation. Instead of your Cat 5, Cat 6, they'll be going fiber optic. And that'll accelerate all of this work. Because when you're sending bits of information, because at the moment, the AI isn't, I would say it's not working fully in parallel, because it's still got to transfer the information. It's not like people can work in bits and then bring it all together. It does seem like it's still needing every computer to understand what the puzzle is. So it's constantly going backwards and forwards. Where it can get to a point where it's either super fast, it will bring, I suspect it will bring energy costs down for a start, because that is done 100 times faster, for example. So the rate at which it gets to a solution is faster, which means it solves problems faster, which then reduces the energy bill. But also I do think it will reintroduce how some of the systems are working together. Daniel Berry Sports Highlight 5851. Happy Sunday. Hello. Hi, how you doing? I'm talking about servers this morning, but it's mainly because I'm sitting putting one together on my desk. Yeah, so I can see that the AI is going to shift in the next, probably in the next 12 months, 12 to 18 months. Normally it'd be 5 years, but because of the energy usage, the cost of the equipment, the stimulus around AI itself, they're pumping it with cash. So I do think you're going to see the technology jump very rapidly. I also don't think we're going to see as many jobs disappear as being made out. I think there's a lot of other bits going on. And it's confusing to see because the media isn't consistent on why people are getting fired. You know, they say there's a big layoff, but they're not going, well, what were they doing? Are these the programmers? Is this, you know, because we had that DEI thing where we were shoving lots of people into jobs that a lot of companies, they were just an overhead. You know, you go from a HR person to a HR division, and they start doing all this Wellbeing Wednesday, and it just gets expanded out. It's just costing money, it's costing time. But fundamentally, did it improve any of the people in the business? Probably no, in many cases. The reality is a lot of people didn't benefit. It took time away. They got absorbed into things they weren't really interested in and wasn't giving them the output that they needed. You know, even if you look at it professionally, it wasn't about resolving an issue. It's not like they're really dealing with problems with people. It's the illusion of dealing with problems with people. You know, talking about Wellbeing Wednesdays and stuff, they don't really want to talk about real issues and real problems in the majority of companies. Unless you're high value, then that may change. I remember a long time ago, there was a programmer that I didn't know him personally, I just knew him in the same business. But he had a driving ban. I won't go into why he had a driving ban, but it was a permanent one. Yet the company used to get him a taxi to work every day and get him home every day because of the value in the business. Anybody else? Not a chance. Also, what he'd done, most other companies would have just let you go. But he was actually the functioning person that created all the software in the business. So even though he'd done something that resulted in the end of someone else in a car incident, he was kept on. With other people, if he started saying, oh, I'm having these problems at home or whatever, companies would go, oh yeah, but that's your personal life. They try and move away from it. And that's my whole point. The well-being stuff just becomes pointless because they don't actually want real issues. It's the illusion of actually caring. Unless it affects productivity, but even then we're back to the DEI argument because we're sitting here with stale DEI. Because if your productivity is dropping and you've enforced DEI and then not recognizing there may be two in the same, it's a bit bizarre. Because if you're running your own company, you would be assessing why sales have reduced. It's simple as that. It doesn't matter what it is, you'll be assessing why is our sales numbers down? Why are we not producing 50 widgets? We're now producing 38 a day. What has changed? Because that's what a normal business does. And I think a lot of stuff's been stalled because of, don't want to say anything. And now we're starting to see the impact of that as we start laying off a lot of people that were hired, but they do it strategically. It's AI's fault. AI come in, whole thing's changed. But yeah, if anything you want to discuss as well, guys, please put it in the comments. Going to be putting this together in the background. So many parts in this. Look at all this. My least favourite. Was that add a Q&A? All right. It's just asked me to add a question. I'll leave the questions. I hate when you start getting stuff added up. Yeah, I mean, this morning I was listening to something that was quite interesting around people that have gone to Africa because they've realised they're not treated like Africans. Why would you assume you would be? I mean, I don't see me as, you know, I don't see myself as Spanish because I live in Spain. I'm Scottish because that's Scottish Irish with a hint of Denmark is my gene pool. But at the same time, I don't count myself as Scottish in the traditional sense. I don't expect people to treat me the same as Scottish because I didn't grow up there. But it was quite interesting listening to people complain about Africa on the way that they're treated, that they're not treated as Africans. I've spent a lot of time in London, and this may shock you. A lot of Africans, well, British people from Africa, do not treat each other the same. If you're from the mainland, from an islander, they treat each other very differently. If you're from different countries, they treat you very differently. It's not one size fits all. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense, because when you think about it, if you're the old joke, the Scottish man, the Irish man, the English man, there's a prime example from the UK. You treat each other differently from where you're from. That's just logic. But when you're not from that country, in the sense of you never lived there, but you're wrapped up in what people have told you must believe, then you're in for a reality shock. To them, you're an American. In Africa, you're an American. You're a foreigner. In Spain, I think, what's the word for in Spain? Giddy, yeah. And it's not a nice word, but it's the sort of things that you meet with normally from, I was going to say lower class people. That's how. What does that make me say? It's normally where you'll find the majority of people see people. You're a foreigner, and it's not because they hate you. It's because you're a foreigner. That is it. You know, you're not going to magically become Ghanaian or whatever. No, yeah. You look at South Africa at the moment. South Africa is starting to get very anti-African if you're from Nigeria, etc. There are people being attacked in the streets. Why? Anti-immigration. It's not one nation. Never has been. And I'm not going to dwell on Africa too much, but it was to do with the fact that the assumption of what people have been told is incorrect. If you go to the Philippines or elsewhere, I generally find it's where, it doesn't matter which country you go to, it's normally people that are ingrained that, for example, the dollar is strong, their currency is weak, so therefore you are rich. The concept of everything is relative in the sense of your rent is 4 times as much, so your cost of living is higher, doesn't even cross their mind. So you're just wealthy, that's it, done. Completely irrelevant, the rest of this stuff. But it also justifies stealing from you, extorting from you. And you see it, like I remember seeing it in the Philippines at the museums. There's a foreigner price and a local price. Do that in the UK, people will be in an uproar. Reality is, we pretend a lot of this stuff is actually not happening, or refuse to acknowledge it because it doesn't suit the narrative. Are people racist, or is it the fact that they just discount their own? because I'm not being funny. If I live here in Spain, I don't want to pay for parking outside my house. But I don't care if they charge other people, because it keeps the parking down. Because this is my neighbourhood, I should get a permit. But even then, I sit there and go, but I don't want to pay for a permit because I've always lived here. And this gets back to a lot of the issues. As you start looking at it from a logical point of view, a lot of this stuff we're told is completely incorrect. Because the permit stuff, who decides it? The local government, the local mayor. Anything the government gets involved with always costs you more money. That's just fact. If they're giving you money, they're giving you your own money back, because they just took out your pocket somewhere else. So it's not actually any benefit to you whatsoever. That's the reality with all this stuff. So yeah, it's interesting when people go to Africa and realise they don't actually like us. They just want to extort us. Building materials disappear. Tools disappear. They all want paid more. They want paid on time. The stuff that doesn't go in locally. I experienced the same when I was in the Philippines. You start off with being nice and treating everyone the same as you would in the West, but then they just see that as weakness. So they will steal your stuff. They will overcharge you. They will get a second receipt at the builder's merchant so they can skim off the top. You will find that they'll reduce the amount of cement in the concrete so that they can profiteer off a few bags here and there. You will find the rebar for the steel is reduced in size, and they bought the cheaper one because they'll steal the rest of the money and still got the receipt for the expensive one. Because it's acceptable behaviour, because you can afford it. That's what it's always come back to when I've caught people doing stuff. You can afford it. You're the foreigner. And the weird bit is watching the African guys that are, well, Americans, they thought they were African, have gone back to Africa and realised they don't actually want us here. They treat us like Americans. You're an American. To them, you're an American. That's why a lot of this stuff you've been told is just illusions. It's spread by people that have no context on real world. It's ideologies. You know, it's a bit like think tanks and think groups and whatever. I get involved in some of this stuff, and I'm not going to go into it in too much detail. But you sit on there, and a lot of these people have no real world context. So, for example, let's just take this. This is a good example. I've got the computer motherboard here, yeah? So the computer motherboard's like this. So I'm putting this together on the desk. Now imagine that's a fire alarm panel, right? So the fire alarm panel, put it together on the desk, really nice, goes together well. As an engineer in the factory, fantastic. I can lay everything down, gravity is working this way. When you're trying to replace a component on a fire alarm panel, it's on the wall. It's got a door that keeps trying to close when you're trying to work on it. They don't take that into account because they work on a desk. They don't see these problems because they've never experienced them. They don't work at that level. They don't understand it. They don't think about it. It's never crossed their mind that the door keeps shutting because there's a cable for the buzzer that keeps pulling the door shut when you're trying to open it because the cable's too short, and then you disconnect it and it starts, you know, creating other issues. They don't see it because they don't do it. In the same way, when you put the board together, the panel looks lovely, got the panel. Hang on, I can't get the screw holes to mount on the wall. I've got to take the panel out to do that. I've got to hold the panel and try and get. That's real world issues. They don't have real world issues, a lot of these people, because they've never experienced it, and they wouldn't want them, because once you've got real world issues, it goes like that. Because that impacts that, and that, and that, and that, and then you've got a problem. You only wanted to do this, and now you've got to deal with all the other issues associated with it. It's the same as a village in the Philippines. They put shipping containers in, and they said, well, the locals can now just use air conditioning to cool them. These guys struggle to fund feeding themselves. How the hell are they going to afford air conditioning? The old houses are normally off the ground, and it's like nipper, so it's air flows through the sides, and it's natural material on the roof as well, and the sun hits the ground underneath it, so it keeps it warm underneath. So the mud underneath warms up, the ground warms up, and at night the heat carries up to keep the house warm. That was the traditional method. Shipping containers don't do any of that. But what happens is you get these big charity projects come in, screw everything up, and disappear because there's no accountability. It's not where you get a housing project and the people that live there go and complain to the council every week that the house they built was a pile of junk and it's full of damp and the lights don't work, crime's out of control. Charity projects are vanity projects in too many occasions, unfortunately. So for me, this is where we are. This is why people keep complaining about the West, but they keep focusing on each other. It's not you guys that are the problem. It's the people doing this to everybody that are the problem, because their view of the world is not yours. And it's not the guy that is trying to steal from you because you're a foreigner. It's not the viewpoint of the guy who's just got a shipping container house going, hang on, I didn't want this. This doesn't actually work. It's the viewpoint of ideologies. It's the viewpoint that everyone is the same, everyone is equal. It doesn't work. Doesn't work. It's never worked. If you look at housing estates in the UK and dealing with social housing, and they take a nice neighbourhood and they put some rough people in there, the area declines. They don't magically become gentrified and polite and whatever. They drag the whole neighbourhood down. People move out. The demographic changes of places like London is exactly that type of thing happening. Crime's going up, but they fudge the numbers. They diversify how they report things, and suddenly they're going, well, there's nothing really here. It's just the fact that people have moved to places like Clacton or Clapham? Clacton. It's Clacton. It's Clacton-on-Sea. So people have sort of shifted, moved away. But then they ignore that because that is a demographic shift. That is not a case of the area has stayed in one environment to enhance or become better. It is a lot of people have moved away, which means a lot of the people that run the places down increase. And then people start going, the area, the crime's out of control. I don't like living here. It's a bad area. It's rough. It's disgusting. There's too much crime. Did you see what happened on Friday? All that sort of stuff, because it's a change that should never have occurred. Because it's a forced change. It's not a natural change. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that anyway. Don't agree, that's fine. It's good to be back in Spain though, I'll be honest with you. Sitting up here, it's nice and warm. It's windy out there, but I can hear the waves. The birds are singing. A lot of birds this year. Although they keep crapping everywhere. Bro from Brum 8502. Matt, I'm happy I caught your live video viewers. I do love your finance, mental health, self-development videos, but I do think we differ on societal issues now to solve them. I hope you're well. Yeah, well, see, the thing is, the societal issues, I'm not saying I could solve them. I think that's half the battle. People are assuming they can solve them very easily. It's too complex. I think a lot of it is the reality that we've got too many people trying to make decisions and things they don't really understand. So yeah, I agree. You may differ, but that's reality. We're not supposed to all be the same, because that's how. If everybody agreed on the same thing, how dull would the world be? But that's my view on that. Yeah, finance, by the way. The AI stuff took a massive dip on Friday. Um, I'm looking at it as an opportunity because AI is not going away. AI is going to go up. I'm not saying which stock's going up or whatever. I'm sidestepping that because Matt, you told me to buy. I'm not telling you to buy nothing. But the fact that a lot of them dropped by 10% on Friday, there is massive growth still in AI. We're not even touching the surface yet. One of the problems is the amount of energy and power and everything that's been used. Also the scale that is required to do something. This is going to go from that to that. And when it starts getting down to that, that's robotics. So that's at the moment where like, what would it be like the battery. You used to have massive batteries to do something, and now look at the battery in your phone. This is that sort of, the phone. Remember the old phone batteries? About double the size of that. Then you had the telephone on the top. That's where we are with AI at the minute. So once that starts becoming paper thin or whatever, the technology is going to jump. There's some really interesting projects out there as well on AI. I mean, mine's a lot to do with documentation control, recognizing issues in drawings, like a boiler not being there. But there's a lot of opportunities in there, and this is where people go, "Oh, I'm going to lose my job." And I'm sitting there going, "Well, what do you actually do? What do you do?" "Well, I'm a scaffolder." "You ain't going to lose your job as a scaffolder." "Oh, I work in IT." "What do you do in IT?" Because if you're the guy that sits and puts all this crap together, they're probably going to want more of you. In the same way, if you're just doing account processing, it may be moving from account processing to actually just verifying the accounts. Because that's how I use AI a lot. I get it to go and read stuff and then come back to me with what it's thought. I don't go, "Yeah, out the door." I'll read it, assess it, and go, "Yeah, that's fine." Off you go. But it might have saved me 3 days, because some of the big contracts I can deal with can be like, well, let's just say like 3,000-4,000 pages, because you'll have different clauses referencing another clause and another annex, etc. And you've got to pull all that together. So when you sit there and go, "Okay, there's that," it takes ages. So it is Bro from Brum 8502. To be specific, I'm referring to society issues, especially when it concerns ethnic minority and so-called woke issues. I don't think the right-wing narratives want to actually hear and solve such issues with a clear mind. I've got to admit, the problem is they haven't been listened to, from my perspective. When I did my degree recently, it was all Black History Month. It was all embedded in wokeism. It was all about manipulation, because you think, well, yeah, but that's okay. Yeah, it's a business degree. it has nothing to do with business. It was just you must accept this doctrine and must go down this channel. I don't think for most people it's an issue of they're pro or anti woke. I think most of it is it's being dictated. It's not discussed. They shut anything down that will challenge something. So, do I agree with DEI? Absolutely not. If you are saying to me that, see, I look at things commercially. I look at it from a business perspective. I want the best person possible to do that job. I don't care where they came from, what their background is, what their family history is, or their color, religion, whether in a wheelchair. For me, I don't take any of that in, because what I'm interested in, can you do what is required? That's it. It's as simple as that. Because the rest of it is like a soft approach. But the reality is, when you're dealing with business, what you want to have is the best business possible. You want to be outperforming your competitors. And you can have the greatest well-being programs on the planet, but eventually your business will get swallowed up. I do think many of the woke frictions we have in society would disappear or decrease if ethnic minorities felt heard and actually accepted. So if they bring up name discrimination on CVs and jobs, yeah, but that's different. I'm talking from sitting in meetings where people are literally hiring somebody as a minority because they're going, there's too many white people on the directorship. I'm sitting in meetings where they're actually victimizing people because of the people that have performed are white. You're getting, oh, well, you must go because you're white. Not the fact that in the industry, to do what I do, I've been doing this 30 odd years. You can't have somebody in their 20s coming in doing this. It's impossible. They can't absorb that amount of information. It's not just knowledge, it's experience. It doesn't come in one jump. It takes a long time to absorb it. So interviews, they want that to be taken seriously instead of being told to get on with it. Yeah, but that happens to everybody. That happens to everybody. It's not discrimination when you say, oh, shut up and get on with it. That happens in a lot of companies. It's nothing to do with discrimination. I've been told just stop bleating when I noticed a contract had a massive financial hole in it. Funny enough, with a company, Carillion, that went bust. When I noticed the numbers didn't add up, there was a massive problem in the finances. But I was told basically shut up. It wasn't because I was white. It wasn't because I was black. It's because they knew there was a problem in the business. They didn't want to discuss it. What's that one? Discrimination on CVs. So if they bring up name discrimination on CVs and jobs interviews, they want to be taken seriously instead of being told to get on with it. Well, isn't that HR though? Because to get across my desk, it would have already gone through. I don't hire directly. HR deal with it first. So if there's discrimination on people's names, then that would be HR's filter that before it got to my desk. But I'd also add, you'd have to have enough experience to actually get onto my desk for me to review it in the first place. I mean, I deal with lots of people from all sorts of backgrounds. I mean, I engage with people all around the world. It's not a, for me, because I work on PFI PPP, I talk to people in Jordan, Saudi, even out as far as, well, even when I went back to the Philippines, I was at the cement plant. They were Japanese and Mexican is the owner, so I was dealing with the Japanese because they wanted solutions for the contamination that was coming off the plant. Yeah, there you go. I know HR managers tend to be. Exactly. So you're asking the wrong person, because as I say, my view is, can you do the job? That's it. I'm not interested in the rest. You know, if somebody said to me, well, you've got to review this guy because they're black, I would have turned around and said, what are you talking about? I'm reviewing anybody because they're black. I'm interviewing for this job. You've singled somebody out. I can't do that. I need to pass this back for review because I'm not being manipulated into making a choice, regardless of what the business feels. It actually goes against company policy. So even when I say people talk about it and say, well, there's too many white guys on the business, they're talking about each other as if like, well, who's going? Because they're not talking about themselves going. But then I sat there and said, well, this doesn't actually make any sense. It says because when I was at Kia, I won't mention people's second names, but Kia had the director was a lesbian. Amanda over at Amy was a lesbian. And I can name lots of companies that selected through not natural selection, through HR because it was all this Me Too and not enough, too much white and stale, all that nonsense. But as soon as you start going white and stale, that gets into, well, why is it white? And you go, well, I don't actually know. Well, yeah, well, that's the issue, because people like myself have been doing this for a long time. There wasn't that many people in the industry that goes down this route. You know, people like myself are often sort of almost like a unicorn, because we're time served. We've studied multiple disciplines, gone through all the commercial side, the legal side, the financial side. Most people don't put that level of dedication in to keep going and keep training and keep going. That it's very narrow. Oh, so yeah, it filtered your comment out. You're a decent person that would hire fairly if you were HR, but others not so much. Yeah, but I'm not HR. HR have directives and policies that drive a lot of this stuff. This is why I don't really want to get into, like, the Henry case at the minute has sort of highlighted the way police treat things, because a lot of it around how they're teaching people to do stuff. And that's what gets into. That's why I brought my degree up, because I'm looking and going, well, I don't agree with any of this. You know, why am I studying Black history? This is a £14,000 degree. I don't care about Black history, not because I'm racist, it's because I'm not interested. You know, my recent history books, well, they're not history books, are they? They're historical in the sense they're from Homer, but it's to do with Achilles, Odyssey, etc. It is part of my European history, but it's not really, I dislike or hate anybody. But yeah, back to your comment. I don't think I read it out, did I? You're a decent person that would hire fairly if you're HR, but others not so much. Also, not that I fully subscribe to the way of hiring, but aren't white men who are mediocre hard and trained up? I don't think they are. See, you got to look at it from different industries. I'll take my industry because that's what I understand, because I've worked in this industry long enough. If you're asking, is it a mediocre because they're white? No. In previous companies, I have experienced nepotism. So, for example, when a graduate program come along, you may find the odd one or two sons of directors on those programs, and they're pushed up the ladder. They're taken on as a graduate. Within 2-3 years, they're a director. They haven't earned it. They're often mediocre, as you say, and they're often self-centered and self-absorbed because daddy got them the job. So yes, I agree on that, but at the same time, I also experience in other companies graduates coming from Peru, Africa, and a lot of people from the various Black communities that are going through from DEI. Does that make them good or bad people? The answer is they're graduates. I give people a break. They haven't earned a position. The difference between those people and the son of somebody is daddy isn't protecting them. So what you have is they have some sense of humbleness, that they know they've been given an opportunity and looking to, guys, I haven't done this before, can you help me? So you will get a lot of people say, well, yeah, I did a Prince 2 course on project management, but this is nothing like Prince 2. And you go, yeah, this is how you do it. Bang, bang, bang. For me, I'm output driven. It's got nothing to do with where people come from or whatever. I didn't hire them. It's not for me to go, oh, I hate this person because I don't care. What I care about is all the stuff that's been done illegally, the stuff that's taking everything out the economy, the stuff that's damaging society as a whole. That's where my focus is. Do I hate people because their grandparents come from? Absolutely not. Everyone's the same. Everyone's got the same crap. Everyone's got the same government destroying everything. Bro from Brom 8502. Some would say white and stale because of racial bias and believe that they would inherently get along with fellow white person than the societal view of woke try to address. I would say that's a 80s viewpoint. I don't think that's correct. I mean, I look at, say, a lot of these institutions, and I mean, this is one of the reasons I want to change my glasses. You see a lot of them have the big glasses. They have a very narrow viewpoint on the world. And when challenged, they don't like it. So it doesn't matter if you're looking at the Met Police or what's just happened with Henry. The fact that it's come out today, I think, is that with the Henry case, the police actually tried to put a public statement out during the case, which could undermine the case. And I believe also, from what I've heard, the police were trying to make out that he wasn't the person he was. So for me, that's nothing to do with race or colour. That's how these institutes work. And it didn't matter what colour you were. Because if you go back to the 70s, people say it's because of black. No, it's because these institutions operate that way. They're self-preserving. And that's the bit I think people need to understand. A lot of these institutions are not for our benefit. I mean, I've always seen the police as the protector of the state, not the protector of the people, the state. So the mantra becomes around preserving whatever the ideology is at that time, or the power that goes with it. Yeah, I mean, it sounds quite broad, though. I know it does sound broad, but that's people that believe this stuff's there for them. I think it's delusional. It's the same as the embassies abroad. If you ever dealt with embassies, unless you got influence, cash, power, etc., you're not that important. You're not that important. When you need help, they don't really want to help. When I was out in the Philippines, I dealt with a murder case. And there was a lot of corruption involved. And I spoke to the embassy officials to try and help this individual. And they just went, yeah, well, we trust the police. Really? That's not what your statement says on the website. So some of this stuff is quite ingrained, because this is what I'm saying. It's all about the interpretations. It's how people see things. It's how people understand things. But once you actually understand, a lot of the stuff we're told is incorrect. But the other bit you did say there, by the way, hired and trained up. A lot of these people never trained up. The amount of people I see that have got the wrong skill sets in the wrong businesses, and it's nothing to do with race, colour, or anything else. It's the shoe fits, even though it's a size 5 in a size 12 shoe. It's often people that are less qualified are cheaper and shut up a lot. So you've got more control over them. So you will see a lot of people you think, why is that person doing that? That's the wrong person. Bro from Brom 8502. I do agree there's a lot of institutional unfairness and unprofessionalism. However, when black people were suffering from its unprofessionalism, such as black teens strip searched at school. Well, I know you're still typing, but my view on, were they actually physically strip searched? Because I don't think that's I don't think that should be occurring, but I also know that the crime and risks may outweigh the legislation, because if they're likely to, like, for example, if you're in an area that has a very high ratio of doing things they shouldn't be doing that have the potential for something fatal, then you've got to take that on board. But this actually fits in with I was talking about Africa earlier, because you just hit on a core piece. See, I'm going to step away from Africa because I don't want it to start to become about black people. I'm going to talk about the Philippines because I was there for 8 years. When you go to the shopping malls in the Philippines, the guards are armed. They have pump action shotguns. They have pistols. You're searched as you're going in. They've got the what do you call it? The scanner as you go in as well. There's a lot of armed security. You go to the bank, there could be 3 or 4 armed guards. The trucks, the money trucks, they're carrying M4 carbines and only AK-47s, fully automatic weapons. This is where we got the issue of low and high trust societies, because it's all right to steal from you because you can afford it. And a lot of this is mentality. It's not about color. It's the mentality that you can afford it. I can do bad things to you because you deserve it, because you've got something I haven't got. It's a child's mentality that's locked in adults. Without parental permission or presence, for instance, this is back to the body searching. Many ignored it as woke nonsense issues. Sadly, it took Henry's case for unprofessionals to be taken seriously. Well, see, this gets back to some people allowed to carry things that others aren't. My view is we just go, nobody's allowed to carry it, or everyone can carry it, 1 or 2. And I deal with business that way a lot of the time as well, because when you try and be the common person, you get stuck in the middle. But when you say, well, everyone can carry something. No, because there'll be more crime. Okay, nobody can carry something. No, but these need special treatment. Well, everyone then should carry it. Because it's the 2 people on the outside that need to actually bloody agree. It's not you. You're trying to inject the common sense. You're sort of saying, well, the common sense is people either should be or shouldn't be carrying. That's it. But yeah, I get it. I mean, the searching, the underlying issues here are far, far deeper, because a lot of it is cultural. A lot of it is society is breaking down. It's like when people are talking about people buying their first house, a lot of people aren't even thinking about that anymore. We've moved it away from a future. It's all become transactional and about today. It's about you. How with everybody else? It's all about me. It's all about me. That's how society is headed for decades. Everything's about making money off it. You hear about side hustles, grifting, doing this, doing that. It's all about the self. This is why a lot of stuff I do, I try and avoid doing that stuff, because I don't like it. I think it's completely wrong in society. My view is to be sustainable and happy. You know, you can go through life trying to keep getting the excess, but one thing you will run out of is time before money. So reality is, enjoy the time you have, because it's the one thing that is not infinite. So when I look at a lot of the stuff in the UK, it's decay, because we've removed things like a lot of the social clubs. We've removed things that brought communities together. Government's overreached and got too much control in things. We've removed too much discipline from schools, etc. We've made people feel that they're second-class citizens, so everyone thinks they're second-class in some bizarre way. But at the same time, you then get the breakout of the masculinity stuff as well, saying, well, we can see all this stuff, to hell with them. Sometimes it's treat women as second class, some of it's like men going their own way, etc. And then we're going, but women want to get married now. And the guys are going, well, not interested. Not interested. And this goes back to, I think, the Channel 4 documentary a few years ago, where they were looking at inner city London teenagers and they're talking to them. Girls want to settle, get married down. They talk to the guys. No way that happening. That ain't happening. I know what it was like when my mother brought me up after my dad left. They already see the the fragmentation of the next generation within them. They also see they will never own a home. They also see that what's the point? And that's what's created a lot of this, because we're not valuing it. Where's the role models? Where's the role model? When I was a kid, there's Daley Thompson, you might have Frank Bruno. You were aspiring to be something. People, I've seen last week, there was a video where they were asked about what aspires people to be something, or inspires, sorry. And they're saying their models are like be a TikToker, be an influencer. Da-da. When I was a kid, the three things I wanted to be: pilot, a lawyer, and an astronaut. Every one of those is bloody hard work. It's not getting on the phone like this. And every one of those takes dedication and time. I think the short-term stuff that's gone into people's minds now is damaging. I think there's too much. Well, you can see it. Shorts, TikTok, microseconds, goldfish thoughts. They're not like this, a 1 hour video discussing things. It's shortening everything into silly dances and stuff that mean nothing. It's a complete waste of a life time. Bro from Brum 8502. High trust societies tend to take care of those with poor and come from unstable families. Many of what I have seen on downstream of society, mistrust is really a byproduct of poverty. I agree. There is. Sorry, I'll let you carry on first. Yeah, it's a weird thing, because often the more you give, the more people expect is the other side of that coin. This is why you can often see corruption, because taking from others is acceptable. Abusing the NHS is acceptable because it's free. It's free. Did you know that? It's free. Not the fact that if people looked after things better, there was more for everybody. The quality of life and standard of living, people have misunderstood their position. A lot of decay in Britain, core problems aren't solved, so it leads to more issues. Young men and women are drifting apart and they're still ignored. Poor situations, lack of money, etc. is causing this. But I'd also argue people forget where we were. If you go back to Victorian and Edwardian times, we have jumped forward by miles in that time. We, as a society, do not recognize our current position. We do not recognize we have a roof over our head, food on the table, and a lot of stuff. Whether we're failing ourselves or society's failing, we're still surviving. We've moved a million miles away from where we were over 100 years ago. We have electric, we have heating, we have a medical system that treats pretty much anybody. Now, that's why when people are sort of saying, well, I can't get a job. You make a business, you create a job, you do something. We've all been in positions where we've had a hard time and been knocked back. The difference is a lot of people have got this victim culture that has been brought in to destroy everything. We need to just get rid of it and just say, do you know what? Yeah, you didn't have a dad, or yeah, you're not rich, but you know what? It ain't going to change if you don't change. You need to be the one that actually sits there and go, what can I do to fix it? And I do this, whether it's my personal life or business. I can sit in there and gripe about the issues in what's going on in the business or in my personal life. I'll go, do you know what? I've just got to fix it. I've just got to fix it. No one else is going to do it. I've got to do it. So what you've got to do is actually sit back and teach people to realize, get on with it. Sort yourself out. No one's going to do it for you. The housing crisis in the UK is a manufactured one. But we can't fix it because we keep importing more and more people, and the GDP is a false narrative with money going out and people coming in that are reliant on money, which is why the figure at the moment is about the social care is more relevant than people coming in and out, because when they go 1 for 1 and all that, it's nonsense. Because like me leaving the UK, I take my money with me. People coming in often have no money, so it doesn't work that way. A lot of sorry, you haven't put another comment yet. So for me, a lot of the decay. We've jumped forward, but not as fairly, Matt. Still, what matters how something is said, not what is said. Those from poor backgrounds are left behind in areas feel left behind. It's worth improving. I'm not disagreeing. There's stuff I do I don't put on the channel, because they're things I do for personal reasons. So, not blowing my own trumpet, because it wasn't me, it was like a lot of people. We helped get funding for some clubs and stuff in the UK. And one of the things I think there should be more boxing clubs. I think there should be more free training for karate, judo, things like that. Oh, because they're all fighting? No, because they have discipline. They have a set of rules. They bring self-worth. We've got to recognize that a lot of the problems we have is people have no self-worth. There's nothing telling them what they're worth as a human being. Everything is negative and running people down. You know, it's like now, even with this stuff with Henry, I'm glad a lot of the stuff's focused on the police, because they've caused a lot of this. Not just about Henry, but in general. The institutions have. But I can't have sympathy for some of the people that work in that environment, because for me, they chose that position. So, yeah. Bro from Brum 8502. We've jumped forward, but not as fairly yet. Yeah, sorry. I've been rereading it. But there is no fairness. Life is never fair. It's never fair. Where we've gone wrong, I think, is we've allowed everything to become commercial and valued as a transaction in the UK, which is the downfall of everything. It's why rents are going through the roof, while at the same time we're now drawing in laws and rules to landlords for the state to benefit, which is now taking people off the market, as if they're greedy landlords. So we'll exploit that for more taxes, and people start exiting the market, which then means there's more houses on the market. They start to devalue, so that then hits taxpayers. And at the same time, people want to rent, and it's normally people renting for HMOs and other places that can't get on their ladder. Their rents go up because the rental market is reduced. Bro from Brum 8502. I've always had this lingering suspicion that the lack of improvement in the institutions are forward thinking, and bringing in cheap labour may have to do with elites want to maintain, I assume, rigid control. I don't think they're that logical. I don't think they are that logical. Because the reality is, we've not invested in training for decades. The cheap labour, yeah, if I want a labourer carrying a sack of bloody mortar or whatever, but reality, sack of cement. Reality is, there's only so many of those jobs to go around. There's a shortage of real training in the UK. The fixation has been on things like management training. You try and get a training course on something that is government funded, on something that is of high value, you know, in the sciences, or real construction. When I say real construction, I'm not talking about, you could be a bricklayer in 6 weeks, just sign here. I'm talking about a full apprenticeship. They've killed all that. This is why they're going, we'll give you £3,000 to hire a young person. Don't want one. Don't want one. We've encouraged them to complain all the time and not want to work. Don't want it. This is why, this white and stale stuff is why we are still here. Because a lot of people will not do the hours that I'll do. A lot of people will not sit and make something work that's an absolute disaster. A lot of people will have mental breakdowns and stuff with the amount of stuff that goes on that can be soul destroying sometimes. I'm not on about my current employer, just to be clear, they're a really good company. But sometimes I've literally fallen asleep while eating because you've done stints of 20 hours a day for a long period of time and you're shut down. The class system that benefits them disproportionately than those who are from lower class backgrounds. Do they fear bright folks from lower class who would gain power and change things in society long term? Have you seen the Labour Party? I don't think that's a risk. I mean, I look at some of the stuff that goes on with the politicians. I'm like, they've never had a job. I look and think there's no logic in there. The long pauses and stuff, it's all orchestrated. It's and they don't sound natural, do they? It's all like, what was the next line? So for me, I don't think it's that, because you can break that quite quickly. What you need, if you've got lower class backgrounds, reality is you just start developing things that can reshape entire areas and neighborhoods. It's easy to do. It really is. You start operating outside the norm. I mean, when I put the call center together in the Philippines, everyone's downtown in the IT park. I looked at it logically and thought, well, hang on. These guys have got to get from their neighborhoods and towns, which are miles away, to go to work in the city. Why don't I just make one in the Boondocks? And bizarrely, everybody loved working there because culturally, we weren't like other call centers. Power went down or whatever. I'll crack open bottles of Tanduay, which is brandy, and open the restaurant. We owned the corner shop, so we'd have food and stuff. I'll go to McDonald's and buy everybody food. So the point being is, it's not so cut and dry. And also, I don't think there's a clear-cut elite, because when you sit and look at Bill Gates and that crazy guy from Davos, they're up here. These are minions. They're not elites. Starmer's not an elite. He's a minion. I don't think the guy can make his own decisions if he tried. He just does as he's told. So I do think it is possible to change it. Bring in low-wage labour, not the Labour Party. No, I was tying the two together, sorry. So my point being is, I'm not a fan of the majority of the Labour Party. There's a couple of people in there I do respect, but they're not in the actual cabinets. But the bringing in low people only works so far. The amount to put in is just junk. It's just not worth the effort. All it is people sitting waiting for visas and stuff to get processed so they can go on the benefits. And I know people go, oh well, that's you're being. No, I'm not being racial. It's common sense. If you speak to some of these people, they'll tell you that. They'll tell you that to your face because they've been told that. That's why they're here. A lot of people have been told this by NGOs. NGOs, by the way, if you don't know, is non-government organisations. When you're sitting in your homeland in the middle of nowhere, and somebody's coming up and saying, here's a map, here's a phone, head in that direction, keep going, this will help you all the way through Europe. Those guys creating this problem. That's not elites. That's crazy globalists, which aren't socialists, because socialists are normally locked into their own nation. When you like dock workers. I know that's an old one to look at, but the fact is there's the preservation of the docks for the people that worked in the docks. Now we're saying, well, the whole world, we should all make the whole world socialist. Well, that's just madness. They're globalists. We need to separate the two. So bringing in low labour, I agree. When we brought in the Polish, Ukrainians, even the Romanians, but at the same time, that's by the by. They're not flooding the country. A lot of them have left. I do agree people are long-term better off building their own economics, ecosystems and community sovereignty as the economy worsens and Westminster has less money to dish out. Now you're on my page. Yeah. See, the weird thing is how they're curtailing people away from actually saying logical things online. They start off with something broad, and then they start homing into sort of things like, you can't say don't pay your council tax. You can't say this village is for the village people. And then the song breaks out with YMCA. My view is that identity needs to be reinforced. Now, as I said myself, I'm more of a man of the earth, to be fair, because myself and the land are one. No, it's more a case of I have no right to call anywhere home in that sense, because closest I've been was living in Worcester for about 20 years or whatever. But even then, I seen Germany as my homeland before then, because when I was in Germany, it was a much better life. Just if you understand the upbringing as an army brat, you would understand it. But it was a much more whole life, where the UK, it was far too transactional for me. And even the summers, I remember the old summers we used to in Germany. I used to live in Minden. I lived in Verlanderstraße. And in the summers, there's a Melita, which is an outdoor swimming pool. And we spend most of the holiday in the swimming pool, because you go in for the first day, you pay to get in. I think it was like 30 pfennig back then, show my age. And then you'd go and do litter picking, and then the lifeguards will give you a ream of tickets, because that's it for the summer. And then, run out of tickets, go and ask lifeguards, right, you do some litter picking. You go, yeah, go, you go. Off you go. Now you try and do that today with people. It's bizarre, because we've moved so far where jobs are seen as menial. I don't see anything as menial. I see people actually paying their way. What's wrong with paying your way? I see it as self-worth. I see it as people going, you know what, I worked hard today, paid my bills, I'm standing on my own 2 feet. And that, for me, gives what people need. The value in themselves. Because that's it. We have created an environment where a lot of people are not feeling any value, and we're actually telling people they're not valued. That's the sad bit. We're making everything transactional. Everything's a cost. Everything's a value. Everything's money. That's why a lot of the stuff I struggle with around some individuals, because it's all about the car, the house. I hate all that. I can play the same game if I want to do, but it's not my game. I've got a house with my kids, my wife. That's it. We're content. We got our properties in the Philippines. Family's content. I look after, others when they're struggling. That's my choice. But I do think there needs to be some shifts in how we see society as a whole, because the problem is you can't change a lot of people's mentalities. You really can't. I've tried with some people in the Philippines, and then they go back to the way they were before, and they just let you down. Doesn't mean all people are that way. Doesn't mean everything's a failure. It just means that you've got to have some resilience in you to accept you might get 1 in 5 or 1 in 10 or 1 in 50 that become the person that you're really happy they achieved what they did. Because a lot of this stuff as well is we do not focus enough on the success of others. It's all about ourselves. It's all about ourselves. I mean, like my degree, I didn't really make a song and dance about it. It's just a case of, there, I've got it done. And for me, it's more a case of, got the paperwork in the cupboard. But I know for a lot of other people, it was hard work and difficult. I didn't find it difficult at all, but maybe that's me. But jobs do need to provide gainful employment and proper pay. Assuming training is offered and taken, young people feel left behind and left wagey low pay jobs. Yeah, but I think this is the other thing. A lot of jobs were never designed for people to stay there. And this is where I'm not a fan of minimum wage, because it has a false effect, because you can't really improve everything if you're taking the money from people that are above minimum wage to fund the minimum wage. It also creates a running cost that is then added on, so you ended up with a false improvement, because a lot of these people are service industry. It's people that are waiters, waitresses, drivers, etc. So the knock-on effect then goes into the food system. It then goes into the hotels, the bars, the restaurants. So even when they use their own services, it is costing them more. So it becomes a false pay rise, because it just creates a false valuation. Now, I'm going to talk about something that this will actually say, which actually occurred. I'm not going to say what company it was, because I was discussing with some people about this recently. They had all their bonuses and pay rises frozen for 2 years because of what Labour did. The end result is the skilled people have all left the company. The company is now, for punishing them, has now been punished itself, because it lost all of its knowledge and skilled people, because they just left for other companies because of stuff that was done to the business. Now, I will say the fact that the business is it's multi-disciplined, division. So although they have a lot of cleaners, etc., that impact had hit their construction side. And then you lose all the people you actually need to make the profits for the business, because a lot of the other stuff is day to day. Because you think, well, we'll give a wage rise to all the cleaners, right? What do? Because a lot of them work in places like the NHS. They then go, we need to increase all the contract fees. It has a knock-on effect. It's not so straight cut. Just going back. Yeah, but jobs do need to. Yeah, but that's what was going on. The fact is, if you stayed in McDonald's and only worked the fryer, I don't think you can complain that your job is still paying roughly what it did and gone up with inflation only, because you've decided not to move on. A lot of those jobs should be for students, and I'm not saying that's a McDonald's business policy, but the fact is the acceptance that you're not supposed to stay in a lot of these jobs for more than 2 or 3 years. You're supposed to be developing. So I agree, companies can put you through, and McDonald's is one of the companies that do it. That's why you have a lot of management training. You'll train you up as from the fry station or whatever, up to supervisor, up to store manager, to regional manager, to national manager. That's the way they are. That's why I don't knock McDonald's, because they actually have one of the best management systems for people improving. But if you choose to never get past this job and it's your choice, I don't think you can complain that your wages Joe's now a manager and he's paid double what I was, when we worked together on the fire station. Joe's put all the effort in. You've done bugger all. You're still where you started. Hello, goodbye, G5K. Main problem is I see that being too rich means you can buy out politicians to do what you want, which isn't the advantage of the common people. Yeah, totally agree. I would actually say it's not to just be rich. A lot of this is not individuals. It's money driven. So if you look at the way social housing's been engineered at the moment, for what I can see, and this is my personal opinion, when you have large entities buying large new properties off plan, so that, for example, you build 3,500 properties, the legal paperwork for each one normally costs you £1,500. A company says, I'll buy all 3,500 properties. Instantly, you can deduct at least £1,000 off every single property, and that's only in the small numbers. In the bigger numbers, is much bigger, much bigger, because what they can do is negotiate off-plan rates plus this, you get 30% off, 40% off, whatever. So the reality is, where those houses should be hitting the consumer market for Joe Bloggs to go and buy his first house or whatever, or Maureen or Mindy or whatever, they're not on the market. They're being earmarked to become private rental, private control. So you end up with a housing market that has been impacted, that new properties are starting to get controlled by overseas entities. Is financial. Now, that is not like a individual. It's percentages, it's profit, it's loss. So they don't actually see the impact on doing this as an individual. They just go, well, but there's nothing stopping me doing it. And if I can make 14% a year on rental yields, I don't know what the problem is. Not the fact that reducing the available housing on the market inflates the prices of the other houses, or decreases at the moment, because as tenants start to dump, landlords start to dump properties onto the market, which is occurring, plus we've got some stagnation going on in the UK on the housing market, you end up with something that shouldn't be impacted this way. And I know some people say, well, you're half right on this and half right on that, but that's the point. It's been manipulated. It's not a natural housing market anymore. But I agree, yeah, it's to do with the money, but I don't think a lot of it is, there's some overlord type thing, although we have seen Davos and what that guy wears. I do think a lot of this is around profit and the maths behind it, and the maths become logical. So even when you don't head down that same path, it's a bit like aerodynamics, is that when the aerodynamics makes sense for the path of least resistance, and this thing would be to maximize profit with the funds you've got, you're down the same route as aerodynamics. It makes sense. You're not thinking about what the impact is. You're thinking, I can maximize my return on investment. And they don't even think about the rest of it. Don't have to. It's not their problem. The government created it. So I'm in favour of this system they have in Switzerland, where a ratio of earnings. I'm not sure on that system. You'd have to explain it to me. Bra-mate 502. I agree. Grad jobs have been cut heavily. Graduation jobs have been cut heavily, and Labour's silly policies have hurt employment ability to hire young people. It's a vicious loop. Great points made on bonuses. Agree. Yeah, but the other thing for me with graduates, I'll be perfectly honest, my view on this, if you're between 17 and 22, I don't think you should pay any tax. I don't think you should pay any tax on anything. If anything, you should have a healthcare contribution, but no taxes. Because the reality is, those are the years where you're shaping your future. You've got the least amount of money. You want to invest in yourself. You want to invest in what you want to do. And don't get me wrong, a lot of people have no idea what they want to do. But even then, if they get drunk every Friday or whatever, then that's stimulating the bars. So they wasted their lives. That's up to them. And before anybody complains, I did exactly the same at that age. But the point being is, you're low income, low money. I'd much rather just say, do you know what? Don't tax them at all until it's 22. After that, we start looking at how do we stimulate people to become more resilient and self-sufficient. But I do think there's a massive problem. It's not just the money, and like saying it's about the jobs that are available. But I do think we focus too much on like things like minimum wage, not the fact of cost of living. Although they keep going, cost of living crisis. Yeah, what's causing it? I'm sick of people bleating at me, it's costing more money. Why is it costing more money? What are you doing about it? What are you fixing? So part of this would be reduce the costs for people under 22. Because and offer training that is of value to the nation, not to the individual, to the nation, should be free. So if you're becoming a doctor, if you're becoming a engineer, if you're becoming a tradesperson, a lot of that training should be free. Now I'm sounding like a socialist. No, it's because we've got skill gaps, massive ones. We're importing people to fill these jobs. My view is, why aren't we bloody just investing in the training and making it easier for people to do it? Going back to the clean example, I only thought higher pay for them would mean less profit for the company to put into, say, research and development. I think it's a cultural issue too. Government shouldn't need to tell. I'll let you know something that a lot of people won't be aware of. A lot of the cleaners work for facilities companies. A lot of the facilities companies have fixed contracts. The contracts already stimulate what the salaries are and how much it can go up per year. So a lot of it is not the fact that the amount is relevant to the business, because often it's not. What happens though, if you pressurize a system that is already fragile, the easiest way, if I was a facilities company, to still be profitable is still hit minimum wage. But I'm advertising 20 jobs that I have no intention of filling, because I need those 20 jobs to be open and available. And I'll just put the pressure on all the other existing cleaners. So you've got to work harder. You need to do an extra 2 rooms a night, and you don't pay them any extra. And I'll be perfectly blunt, that's how a lot of these companies operate. Whether I agree with it or not is completely not the point. A lot of this is how the businesses actually function, because some have to, because the margins are so low that it's difficult for them to even break even. And others, it's the only way that directors further up the food chain will accept the business. In other words, you need to make a profit. Don't give a damn how, you need to make a profit. So it's not even going into research and development, because facilities management don't have research and development. They don't need it. A lot of the stuff the businesses are built on is 90s tech. They're still using computer-aided facilities management software, CAFMs, which are, in my world, obsolete. They're out of date, they're cumbersome, they're mainly just using them for routine tasks like periodic maintenance. They're not using them even to the full capacity because they're overcomplicated, people are under-resourced. Goes back to the training. A lot of the people that are managing this aren't actually qualified or trained to actually do things that can actually use the system properly. And I've been arguing this for about 30 years. I've been arguing it a long time, that you're using a lot of the equipment wrong. You're better off investing in the training and enhancing people's abilities, because the cost saving comes across by the fact that everything runs smoother. I work in asset management, so the ultimate system is JIT, J-I-T, just in time. So you're not predicting, for example, you need to change a boiler this week or next week, this year or next year, which is the common trend. If you have Internet of Things and good sensor technology, it is recognizing the failures within that boiler before it happens. So what happens is, it's going, you've got 6 months left in that boiler. So that may, in reality, be 3 years before or 3 years after you predicted to change it. The knock-on effect is, if you're looking at a building for, say, 35 years, 25 years, that may reduce a cycle of change. That cycle of change for boilers could be £80,000. That's an £80,000 saving on one building, on one set of boilers. Sounds boring, doesn't it? That's what I do for a living. But the point being is, there is efficiencies that are right in people's faces, but a lot of people haven't got the skill sets to do it anymore. We don't invest in the technology. We say we do. We have net zero. We have all this. A lot of this stuff is not being used properly. Wi-Fi lighting's another one. Lighting that can self-test its emergency lighting system reduces the need for labour. But also, when you add a lux level sensor, which is the level of light in the room, it can reduce the lighting, reducing the power on the light, so that it reduces the cost of running the light. So, for example, in here, it's very light. The light would switch itself off. The energy saving on that is not just the power, but the number of years for that light will increase significantly. So there's some of the stuff I do for a living anyway. Companies to pay more to lesser earners in the company if they can. Profit shouldn't be the only goal of businesses. But see, the problem with that is, it depends on the business model. We've made everybody selfish. Years ago, if you look at Japan's fantastic for this. People stay with the companies for their lives. That makes perfect sense. If you were staying with a company forever, then it rewards people for staying for the business. But if you go in there and say, right, I'm going to stay forever, do a 2-year degree, company invests 28 grand, plus you're rubbish at your job, they've had to train you up and everything, you've done your degree, see ya. That cost the business money. They didn't make a penny off you. You burned through their money. You took a day off every week for your course. You didn't know what you were doing, so you've not only cost time for you, you've then took 3 or 4 other people out of what they do for a job to actually train you on how you should be working. So you've got all that knowledge and experience for free, and then just go, see ya. But I would also say, I don't agree with just giving people money, because money's not the... See, I think the way to make it better for most people is on something of value. It doesn't have to be money. Value could be that if you're a business, you can take a tax hit, you write off bus passes. Cleaners would love that. Free bus pass. Love it. Any time of day, free bus pass. Business can write it off as an expense. Yeah, cleans at the schools 5 days a week. It's cheaper to get a monthly bus pass, free bus pass. Don't matter, 20, whether she uses it at the weekend or that, don't give a damn, it's a bus pass. That adds value without actually increasing costs to the business. Because the problem is, when you add it to a salary, you're also adding national insurance contributions and everything else. But it has limited effect on the individual. That's my point. It has a bigger impact on the business, because you're not talking one person. If you're a cleaning firm, nearly your entire business is the people that are lesser earners. So it's much better. I would much rather have, like in Spain, Menú del Día. So for workers, cheap lunches. There's a lot of stuff that's more value than giving somebody money. It really is. There's free training, free childcare. There's lots of things. I totally agree with cutting taxes. If I don't say your name, it's because I keep forgetting to do it now. But bro from Brum 8502, I totally agree on cutting taxes for 18 to 25-year-olds, and then in turn cut welfare spending, especially disability payments, especially for young people. Needs, again, it's lack of quality politicians in the UK. 100% agree, because for me, even disability, it wants full reform. And part of this is I would want to encourage businesses to actually have more people with needs, but not blanket. You know, for example, there's lots of tasks people can do where you can incorporate people with learning difficulties, etc. It's all about self-worth. That's the key. Self-worth. People being paid to sit at home, for me, is just wrong. We actually tell them they're worth nothing. That's not where we want to be. We want people to be doing something, whether it's the guy that sits and puts the little screws in, these sorts of things, or whatever. Because a lot of problem is we've got rid of manufacturing because we thought it was a great idea, becoming service led and all that nonsense in the UK. I think we need to stimulate manufacturing and stop being on the teat of China. I do think we need a lot of changes. Hello, goodbye, G5K. Something along the line of 1 in 21 in an earning ratio, where the same company, so if the highest earner wants more, he needs to elevate the pay of the lowest earners too. I think you'd need to review that on the type of business though, because I could say I'd agree in one business, but at the same time, if that business employed 75,000 people, the risk of the owner is much higher than the individual at the bottom. And the impact may be the majority of the people at the bottom are generating the business. And you've got to get to a point where it doesn't risk the owner removing the business from the country. So I think you've got to look at what the business model is to actually see if that's even viable. Because if you look at car companies, I mean, don't get me wrong, car companies often, the wages are quite high, but they're getting bashed by China because thanks to China investing heavily in the battery tech and pumping billions into some of the companies to make them work, even though they were non-profitable. I mean, for me, that's unfair business, and for some reason we seem to have accepted it. Weird, strange. Why would we do that? Why would we do that? Yeah. Hello, goodbye, G5K, which is why you get paid 3-4 times more for the same job. Yeah, I would agree, but like I said, it depends on the business model. So, for example, we've already had people complaining that people on the checkout at Tesco should be paid the same as the guys in the warehouse. I disagree with that. Anybody who's worked in a warehouse would know why. It's a horrible job. It's boring. It's often on shifts. It's often on poor lighting. It's on continental shifts and stuff. It's not a nice environment. So I do think it's a case-by-case basis, and what that would look like, I have no idea. Bro from Brummate 502. By the way, I do enjoy your insights into companies and how they function. Thanks. Yeah, I spend a lot of time, because even if I'm not directly related to the business, I often get to hear things that most people wouldn't, because I'm there for something else. So there's weird stuff that goes on that you would think, what are they doing? So, for example, BlackBerry phones. I was at a bank place years ago. They had wheelie bins upon wheelie bins. I'm talking thousands of BlackBerry phones, all in wheelie bins, because each phone still had a value as an asset. Never going to be used again, but they can write it off. They can use it as a loan or whatever they're up to with them. But they just had thousands of them that they got from somewhere. For me, I think one of the problems that we do have in the UK is we don't ask enough business people about how to run a business. And I do think we discourage real businesses, unfortunately. I mean, I look at the high streets and we're looking at vape shops, you're looking at Turkish barbers, you're going, I think we need more small grocery shops. We need more boutiques. We need more family operating businesses. We need to put most of them back. We're already having issues around the quality of things like bread, milk, meat, etc. Bring the butchers back. Bring the businesses back. In Spain, here, I'm ducking because my monitor's here, but I can get everything here. Everything's here, walking distance. You've got people talking about 15-minute cities in the UK, while at the same time, we're not doing anything about repopulating the high streets. The whole thing is on its head. We need to downsize supermarkets. I mean, the fact that Lidl and Aldi can swamp the market because they just focus on the right goods. If Lidl and Aldi continued, and then you've got your greengrocer back, your butcher, your fishmonger, supermarkets are in for a hard time. Let me scroll back up this right side. Hello, goodbye. Oh, commenting quicker than I can answer. Hello, goodbye. I feel that if you run such a huge company, then you need to delegate more, so nobody ever becomes too important for the survival of thousands of jobs. That's just asking for mass layoffs in the future. Yeah, but the problem is when the minimum wage starts hitting, because it's not the wage, you see, it's all the other bits that get associated with it. It's the taxes, it's the so you start hitting the extra national insurance contributions, the extra taxes, the corporate gain tax, and all the other stuff that goes with it. I think adding value is more important because the business can write it off. So, for example, instead of everyone having a car, maybe there's a bus shuttle service. Well, depending on what the business is, because a lot of business in the UK are a lot smaller than people realise. But it's very hard to make it like carte blanche because of the complexities of how businesses operate. Because, for example, if you looked at was it Barclays, where the guys were not laundering money, but creative accounting for the taxes, it took 12 people to do billions. Those 12 did more for the entire business than every other piece of the business. Money-wise, numbers-wise. So I get that you want to go, well, everybody should have a minimum standard, but then I go, well, why don't we talk about standards then? Why don't we say, if you're at this level, that everybody has a food voucher or something that can be written off? Because it's much easier to give somebody an extra £10 a day in some form than in wages, which then can cause a ripple effect that the £10 plus national insurance plus the additional tax plus. This is why I'm not a fan of the minimum wage, because it has a knock-on effect. I think it's the asset piece where you go, right, what can we do with that money? What would be more beneficial to that individual? Can we, for example, pay somebody's 10% rent or mortgage and just write it off? Because it's not a profit, it's gone. It's a debt. We're writing it off. And I think that's far better for people than just going, here, there's more money. Because most people are just paying bills. So why don't we deal with the real problem? It's not the minimum wage, it's the bills. So can we reduce the bills? That's my thoughts anyway. Bro from Brum 8502, yes, warehouses do suck. I often joke, I don't have a criminal record, but I did work 67 months in an Amazon warehouse back in the day. It should count as prison time served. There you go. But people at the checkout at Tesco's won a court case on the fact that they should get paid the same as the warehouse workers. I completely disagree. Warehouses are horrible. I remember a long time ago working in warehouses, and I remember thinking, like 8 months later, I can't remember the last time I've seen daylight. Because I was going to work at like 5 a.m. And there were 12-hour shifts, but they often had overtime as well. So I hadn't seen daylight for months. And it was all artificial lighting. This was a big Sainsbury's warehouse, massive warehouse, and just going around picking, putting, you get this like order on a clipboard, and you go, right, the order picking for the trucks, but it was soul destroying because you were literally just working, going home, sleeping, and working. That was it. No social life, because any downtime you slept. You're so tired. Because the wages weren't great, so we ended up working extra time. Hello, goodbye, G5K. Mitigate risk as much as possible by breaking up high-end positions so more people will get a slice of the pie. But the problem is, when you introduce more people, it often can cause more confusion. Look at the government. It's never so cut and dry because you will counteract. I'm doing it. This is what this is for. This is what the server's for. We're putting multiple agents to argue with each other, where they've got different personalities and different roles, so that they can actually come to a decision amongst themselves on which is the best course of action. Doesn't mean it's always going to be right, because I'm still going to look at it and go, well, that's not right. At least once or twice. Yeah, it's very hard to do that, especially if it's a personal owned company, because they own it, like Muller Yogurts. I believe it's a family owned business. Bro from Bromate 502. I totally agree on not encouraging business owners, especially with need for business tax rates reform. The people we need as politicians, such as yourself, with business minds, don't want to sign up. Yeah, because the problem you have in politics is the people that should be in politics never want to be in politics. Because unfortunately, a lot of politics, as you're seeing with your Rachel Reeves and whatever, they were never competent, from what I've seen, in their previous roles. The very few roles they've had, and some of them have had no roles. But they think they're good. And now they've been tested, they seem to be crying every Tuesday. Bro from Bromate 502. The best and brightest don't have any interest in policies after having a successful career in industry, and we instead get idiots with only a political degree and no actual meaningful work experience. You answered the same question. 100% correct. So, do we need a legislation change that actually... Oh, got cut off there for a second. Do we need a legislation change that actually forces people to select from their community people that, even if they don't like it? Because you can have that happen. I've seen that where people vote for, like, I don't know, their committee member for the business, and people haven't even put their name down, but everybody's voted for them. So you suddenly are like, oh, you're every Tuesday you got to come in and see the directors and explain all the unhappy stuff with the rest of the business, and be like, what? When did this happen? I didn't even vote myself. But I do think there does need to be some change. Hello, goodbye. Work in general is dreadful unless you're doing what you're interested in, but the fun jobs get taken by the kids of rich individuals, and somewhat okay jobs are low in number. That's an interesting thing, but the problem they've got is they've actually created a bad... Well, you just go on to the roles. Actors, writers, artists, and so on are taken by children of the rich. Look at the knock-on effect. Hollywood's taking a kicking. The gaming industry, with all the girl bosses and whatever, is taking a kicking. Because the problem is, they need consumers. And their view of the world isn't the same as everybody else's. So, you know, when you're watching Netflix, and you're sitting there and you're watching a detective series and whatever it is, pirates, could be pirates, and you just, oh yeah, that's going on, okay. Why is the two guys kissing? What the hell's... Why is that in here? What's this got to do with the bloody storyline? They're just rewriting it, and this is the reality of it. Is people start going, I'm switching in Netflix on because I'll start enjoying something, and then it goes a bit weird. Oh, what, you hate gay people? No, I don't hate gay people. And I'm not going to say I know a few gay people, because I do, but it's more a case of I don't really... You don't see much sexual content in most things these days. I don't even notice it. I mean, I go back to the 80s. It was quite when I lived in Hong Kong. So they can have as much violence as they like, but they used to cut all the kissing scenes and stuff out. So you suddenly get like somebody puckering up and doing that. The next thing is conversation's gone. Didn't get the kiss. They cut it completely out. It's not blurred. It's gone. Cut it out. No any of that stuff going on. A lot of this stuff doesn't need to be there at all. So you probably notice there's less sexual scenes and stuff. If you now mention it, you probably look at it and go, I didn't even notice that. But if you do a comparison between 80s onwards, you'll see it's completely changed. The only time you see, I don't even want to get into it. But the point being is you start going, I'm not watching Netflix anymore. There's nothing worth watching. So you do what I do is you get a hard drive and you fill it up with all your favorites. The same as I get vinyl and I've got vinyl. It's got, vinyl, CD, even tapes. I'm sick of hearing adverts. So you start going back to where we were in 80s and 90s. I say 80s and 90s because obviously CDs come in and vinyl went out. So it's 80s and 90s. So you start going back to where we were, but you start watching more of the stuff you were watching before all this stuff happened. So that you're sort of sanitizing yourself away from it. Because I don't want to pay for it for a start. I want to watch a TV show about what the subject matter is. I want to go into a video game and go, right, this is a World War II game. And I'm going to pick, what do you mean they, them? What? There was no they, them in World War II. What are they talking about? Hello, goodbye, G5K. Oh, I know, those industries are dying, but the rich individuals don't care. They're just there for the experience. No, I think the issue is they're assuming because they're so virtuous and better than everybody else that eventually people will come around to their way of thinking. I don't think that's happening. The fact that we're seeing a rise in piracy tells you it's not happening. Because people aren't wanting to pay for it anymore either. It's junk. After Epstein got caught, the elite pedo class don't want another Weinstein case to pop up, so no more booty bumping in any media shows. Yeah, but I'm talking about just basic stuff. A lot of this stuff wasn't, it's gone. It's as if it's just been wiped out and then we'll have two men kissing or whatever. And to be fair, what would be a comparison? If you go back, would it be the 80s? Do you remember, have you ever seen The Crying Game? That'll be a good example. Where it's like, what? It's The Crying Game was about the actual storyline. It's relevant. You look at Kinky Boots, it's about the storyline. But two detectives suddenly kissing in the middle of a scene, it's not about a storyline. It's about an ideology, an agenda. And then the writers sitting there go, I didn't write this. Who put this in there? So it just becomes, what? What's going on? What's going on? This is what, hang on, I didn't write this. I put my name to this. This is rubbish. This has got nothing to do with the story. It's throwing the story off track. What are we going to do about Timmy's wife and his daughter now? It's just throwing the whole storyline out. It's so much. Yeah, I see the, hello, goodbye, G5K. I see The Crying Game every Monday working in Monday morning. What's that? Every Monday morning in the morning when I have to go to work. Yeah, it's But what I'm saying is then that's an old, I think that's an 80s film. And this is what I can't understand when people say this stuff didn't exist. I'm like, it did. It did. I think a lot of people feel they're a victim, but aren't a victim. Life's crap for everybody. I think a lot of people are getting played off each other on purpose. I mean, I worked crap jobs when I was younger. And I don't really complain too much about the state. It was just a case, it was hard work. It's hard to get a job because you were young. Um, you do get an opportunity once you start moving along because hello, goodbye. No, you know I'm not a bot. Yeah, okay. Yeah, but you do start moving up the ladder because you've got to bear in mind. I know a lot of companies around Worcester, like the Polish, the Romanians, etc., because they're seeing white workers as lazy and what do you call it? They weren't dependable on. And I know some of you guys are willing to go, well, that's because they pay minimum wage. To hell with them. But that's what I'm saying. It's never so cut and dry because then you end up with a replacement rather than actually going, well, is it the wages or is it the fact of what the job is, how people are treated, and can we make it easier or better? What was it? You know, when somebody's sitting there doing that all day, you know, they're working a press or something or doing that, put it in, press the button, press goes down, comes up, take it out. The brain destroying, soul destroying jobs. But they used to be able to go out and have a beer. You know, they're on like 200, 250 pounds a week. Not a lot of money, but you know what? Rents were like 60 odd pounds a week. A pint was about £3 or something. They had a reasonably good life. That life is gone now. We've decided to get rid of all that. Now, don't get me wrong, job was crap. But at the same time, the self-worth of the individual was not, I hate my job. They're standing thinking, I've got football at the weekends. I wonder what am I going to do this evening? What am I going to do when I finish my shift tonight? I'm going to. It's everything's about how you manage it and deal with it. And I think because we've eroded a lot of this stuff from others, it's caused this knock-on effect.
Daddy, brunch.
Okay. Get my call for brunch. Side note, one of my main unaddressed causes of the grievances young people are voicing is down to lower quality cultural output across movies, quality of corporatisation, art, music, etc. Absolutely agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. We're devaluing stuff that's important as a society for all cultures. You know, everything's been downgraded to money. Everything's money, money, money. Everything's corporate. How much can mechanical, like your Beyonce nonsense? It's just repetitive noise. It's not quality. I don't see as many battle of the bands. I don't see enough people encouraging kids into music and stuff like that. I'm not one of those because I mean, when I'm sat here, you won't see it. It's a bit of a tip, but the drum kit's there. Guitar here. Son was practicing last night. I was 3D printer there as well. But the point being is he's actually doing the graduation soon. And he's singing. His band's singing. Well, he's literally singing, but they're singing and playing at the graduation of his high school. Now, would he have been there if it wasn't me driving it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I must say, but that's a bit unfair. I steer, my wife drives. She's the one that goes, you are going to your music lesson, you are doing this, right? I just like seen an opportunity to get him involved in music, and now he plays the piano, etc. And well, the piano was actually my wife. I'll be perfectly honest. That was during COVID. You got one of those little mini keyboards. Tiny little mini keyboard. I don't know if we still got it. And he taught himself during COVID. Then we took him for a music lesson at the music school. And the first thing they said is we'll put him in a concert at the end of the month because he was already good. And they said you need to buy him a decent keyboard, a weighted keyboard, and it's got to be this, got to be that. And that's it. Went and bought him that. He's been really good at it. And then I bought him a guitar before that, if I remember right. He couldn't play the guitar, struggled with it. But once he started the music lessons, understood the chords and stuff for the keyboard, he could then play the guitar. And now, 1, 2, 3, I think we've got 5 guitars, because we got, we've got my acoustic. I've got a Fender electric acoustic. He's got at least 2 or 3 electric guitars. We've got a bass guitar. Yes, at least 5 guitars. But also, I let his friends use the stuff as well. Hence, they're all very good at music. Not because I've got all the kit here. You know, even my microphone's got all the sound equipment, got multiple amps. The reality is we've created an environment which is good for the kids. And they'll go and do band practice. I'll take them there and all that stuff. I think there's a lack of people doing this sort of stuff for whatever reasons. And I get that a lot of people are depressed, overworking, etc. But that's the environment we're stuck in at the minute. And it's sad. It's really sad. I think there's a shame attached to low-paid jobs amongst young people from social media and the rush to riches early as possible, so some sadly decide to put less effort in and pull back from life. I'd say it's multi-tiered. A friend of mine, he doesn't do mentoring. Well, he is mentoring, but he used to mentor people in London. He's now gone further north. And it was mainly black youths that he was mentoring, because he's black himself, but that's not the dynamic, it's just the facts. But a lot of it, you're right, they get mocked for who they are. The guy was a really good athlete, good runner, not the mentor, the kid, but it's sort of run down and frowned upon, because it's like, what do you want to run for? You don't want to do this, you know, it's always like pull everybody down. In the Philippines, we call it crab mentality, because when you got the crabs all going up and the one crab is just about to get out there, the other one grabs his leg and goes, come back down here, mate, come back down, come, you don't want to go out there, you don't want to escape, come back down with us. And that is true. But I also think we've created these divisions between men and women because everything's become transactional. You're hearing a lot of women have been sold the false dream through the feminism view of girl boss, high income. I want my husband to be 6'6". I want him to have a high income. He's got to go to the gym every day. He's got to be this. And the guys that do that go, you sound like hard work. I'm not interested. So it's not one thing, but it is all destruction. That's the problem. This is why it's hard. So our kids don't have that. We are proactively trying to beat the system, shall we say. Good work, bro from Brum 8502. Good work on encouraging your kids to sing, play music. Schools complain there is too much focus and pressure on grades and less curiosity around the actual subjects, especially from low-income families. I would say a lot of our low-income families, the issues are home, not the schools. A lot of the problems are around the dynamic in the family units. A lot of the family units don't exist. You know, you go to single parent households, there's nothing propping up that unit. It's failed. And too much gets put on the school to fix these problems, but also kids need to be better at grades, which costs money. Now, I don't tutor my son. He does have a maths tutor, and I think he's got 2 or 3 tutors for different things. But at the same time, I get that other people haven't got that funding. But why aren't the schools doing more? And why aren't the parents doing more to encourage the improvements? So I do think there's a lot of factors in there. But I also think things are too consumer orientated and too transactional, because once you take everything to transaction, you go, well, why would I want to help someone else? What do I get out of it? And I think that's where a lot of people work like that. They're going, you know, my son is not doing what, yeah, he's your son. What are you doing about it? Why are you shouting at me as their teacher? You're not coming in to say, I failed at school at maths. I'm not very good at maths. Can you please help my son? Is there anything I can do to help you? Maybe I can help as a dinner lady or do something to help if you can spend an extra hour a day with my son's maths. Those communications don't seem to happen. We're not operating as communities. We're working as silos, and that's the problem. That's why I like Spain. I find it's a lot more connected here. A lot of people are. I'll ask. Yeah, I was going to say I'll share it, but I won't. I was going to ask my son. My son did a video for his like part of his graduation project, where he had to get every person in his class into the video, and he did the script, filmed it all, he did all the orchestrating. It's a story with some fables in there as well, and he even did the subtitles because it's in Spanish because they all speak Spanish, but he did English subtitles on it. He did the whole thing, and the point being is that the fact that you can get every person in your class to be in that video, for me, is a symbol of something that's more connected than often a lot of the schools are. You know, they're not forced to do it. They enjoy doing it. Even the kids that didn't really want to be in there, they enjoy doing it. Not because they, what did you call it? They weren't like this, you know, they're not being forced to do it. It's just the fact that they just felt awkward in front of the camera because they haven't done it before. But the reality is, it turned out really well, done a good job. But because I just thought, because all the kids are in it and it's a school, they're teen kids anyway, they're all graduating, that's the point. But I won't share it because it's got video of the schools and stuff in there. I think it has to do with overworked parents, as you said, and fear that their kids may fall behind. So they tell kids to ignore music, PE, arts, etc. Sabotage. I think it's a mix though, because a lot of people have got parents that don't even work. I think there's lots of people been left behind because they've been allowed to sit on benefits and not been encouraged to change their ways and improve. This is why I think there's some families in Wales, probably on their 5th generation, where nobody's ever worked. Because once the coal mine shut down, that's it. Life's over. Goodbye jobs. But nothing's fixed it. And they've just accepted that's their peace in life. My view is, it's like, to hell with that. Guys, we need to find something. And we ain't got the money. I'm going to get us some grants. What do we actually want to do here? Because even if we can't work, we can start a bloody band. We can start a boxing club. We can do something. But it all starts with people actually standing up and saying, we need to do it. We need to get on with it. We need to create. Nobody's going to come and rescue me. It's victimhood is the destroyer of many a thing. But anyway, guys, it's over 2 hours and my dinner's getting cold downstairs. So have a great weekend and thanks for enjoying us today. And if you can, please give us a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. And take care. Thank you.